Welcome back, air gunners. Let's talk about the side shot camera mount. This is something that's very popular in the air gun community. It's essentially the ability to, mount on a cell phone on the side of your scope and be able to see what the scope sees. And you can use this for hunting, you can use it for bench rest, all that kind of stuff. I want to give you my impressions, top 6 things I like, top 6 things I dislike. I'm actually going to put out a video. There's going to be a pest removal video shooting some sparrows. That's going to be for this, not for the squeamish on that, but kind of give you an indication of the video quality for yourself, because I can tell you what it looks like, but that doesn't do it justice. And then I'm going to wrap up with the conclusions, kind of tell you about some of the other items out there that might be in competition, like the PARD, some digital scopes, some other systems, and kind of see where it all kind of sits out at. So first of all, before we get into this, guys, let's look at how this is mounted up, because it wasn't totally obvious. There's a little adapter here that goes over your scope, and there's kind of 2 bar holders. So essentially, this kind of fits in there, and this fits up. And what this has, I'll kind of put it here. This has a hole here, and then it's kind of a 45-degree two-way mirror. So there's the scope coming in with the light, and then there's a mirror that kind of bounces off, and that reflects into the camera what you're seeing through the scope. But it's a pass-through 2-sided mirror, so essentially you can see what's coming in through the scope and line up your shot. It takes a little bit of the light quality out, and the image quality coming off it gets a little bit set up. But this camera system will kind of go ahead and pretty much fit anything. This is an iPro 13 Pro Max, I think, and yeah, if it fits that, it pretty much fits everything. So some of the positive aspects of this setup, it's probably the most affordable one out there. Right now it is $199. The next step up, you can go, I think, with the Eagle Vision, which we'll talk about some other options, but that's probably, by the time you're done, you're going to be in the $500–600 range easily. But yeah, so as far as affordability and accessibility, this is the cheapest one that I've seen so far. We go down there, fairly easy to install. As you guys see, it's just one scope ring mount, and you're pretty much good to go. You don't need a whole lot of modifications. It's going to fit most scopes. I'll say most scopes because I'll kind of show you. You might be looking at this and saying, side shot, why is it up here? We'll talk about that here in a sec. But it fits most scopes. You can get by with that kind of setup. No additional camera system. So the nice thing about an iPhone or an Android is the fact that you don't have an SD card you have to mess around with. You don't have to have a different camera system to worry about, different batteries. Most people have a cell phone, and it should work with most cell phones the last 5 years. Just know that that's a pretty slick endeavor in itself, being the fact that you don't have to carry something around and have an extra additional cost, because again, most people have a cell phone, right? Okay, let me remove this. First disadvantage, a couple different disadvantages with this is the fact that it's very big and it doesn't necessarily fit in your case. No matter what way you have it, it's kind of bulky, and it kind of protrudes out the side of the thing. So I kind of pull this off and put it in a whole separate case just to kind of carry it around. That's kind of a hassle. The other thing is there's like a lens system through here, a mirror, and this is prone to dust spots and humidity and everything else. So if this gets dusty, if you're out in the open field, you can see dust spots sometimes on your video, depending on how it's set up. You can go ahead and see, just things that are a little bit nitnoy in your video. You see little dots here and there, like, what's that? And you can tell, oh, it's dust on the lens system and that, because it's not really that well enclosed. So it doesn't fit all scopes perfectly. This has a little, I guess, knob here for the crosshairs and the color. Most scopes don't have this, but the bars kind of come down, and it's supposed to kind of come down over this, and it gets in the way. So I had to kind of mount it up here, and then the crosshairs gets a little off, which you'll have to fix in post-processing with your video. Kind of move the crosshairs like that to make it line up if you want to show people what you're shooting at, to make it sense, because right now the crosshairs are like this, the way I have it set it, and I kind of have to move the video to square it up. So Not all scopes work with this, but probably a majority of them. So the image quality is really kind of a mixed bag, which I'll show you the pest removal here in a sec. Kind of, you guys can gauge it, but just know there's so many things that go to the image quality. One is how good is the scope, how crystal clear it is. You're going to get purple fringing. You're going to get, you know, if you have a really cheap scope, this is an average scope image quality, I guess, out of other scopes that I've had. But just know that, you know, environmental conditions, if it's really hot and you're getting heat waves, dusty, windy, that kind of stuff, it's really going to suffer. Especially these little cameras on these cell phones, if you have low light, horrible light, you're going to get grainy images anyway. And all this kind of adds up. Horrible weather, small sensor, not a great, you know, scope. Your image quality is going to kind of take a hit. The other thing I'd like to say is that with due to the image quality is the fact that you're only kind of using a third of the whole screen. So you have this big square 16:9 frame, and there's a scope in the middle. That's that round cursor or open scope that it uses. So essentially it's not able to use a whole full 4K sensor. You're only able to use about a third of that. So maybe you're like 1.5K, 1K video. And if you start zooming in or expanding on that, it's going to even get more grainy. So that's one of the things that I wish there was a little bit better system out there to grab the full sensor to give you a little bit better image quality. And the last thing, directions. There was no directions in this. I was kind of scratching my head like, how does this thing fit on? Because I've never really looked close at some other side shot cam mounts. That being said, it's fairly easy. You will have to buy a different adapter. This is a 34 mil or 30 millimeter tube. You got to get one inch millimeter tube or 1 inch tube, and then 34 millimeters, something like that. So just know, I don't know if they sell these adapters alone or if you have to buy the whole kit, but just know it doesn't fit on every scope around there. So you have to buy some different adapters if you have a whole bunch of different setups, which would be all right there. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show you some of the video forewarned. This is a Sparrow pest removal. It's graphic. If you don't like this kind of stuff, I understand you want to bail out now or go to the very end of this video and get the conclusion of how this kind of competes with some of the other stuff and my feelings. But take a look at this, see what you think of the video. All right, so you guys seen the video, you've seen the video quality. Not much I can do to improve it from there. It's a little jittery. It's pretty standard for, you know, YouTube video and that. So what's the conclusion? The conclusion is if you have a couple $100 and you want to spend a lot more, this is probably the best deal out there for the price. If you have a cell phone and you don't mind using it. Again, the drawback is, you know, text. If you're someone else's, using this, you got to tie up your phone. You have to actually use it. And if someone's going to call you, you're going to drain your battery. All that stuff kind of hurts the cause of your cell phone because it's strapped on there. It's not a big deal to take it off, but if you can do that, $200 and use your cell phone, and you don't mind okay video quality, I think it's very, very, very good option. Going up from there, some of the competition, there is the Eagle Vision systems, which is a little bit, it seems like it's a little bit better. They have a little GoPro that mounts on the side, but that's going to cost you another $500 for a GoPro, and the mount will be a couple $100. So you're $500, $600, $700 pretty easy. You have some other additional camera mounts that go on the back of this. That's a video camera, and then you can look through it. That's probably going to cost you anywhere from $300 to $500. That's an option. And then last piece is the digital scope. Now this is a PARD 13 power digital scope. It's got a laser rangefinder. It has a laser and a rangefinder on it, but it's a pretty nice piece of tech. It's about $1,000. It only does 1080p video, but the 1080p is solid 1080p video the way it does it, because it's kind of using the whole sensor when it shows you that. And that's the thing. I'm going to compare in the future the video out of the side shot versus some digital scopes, because the digital scopes, you have ATN, you have Pulsar, Wolf, and PARDs. They have some pretty good stuff, some of them not so great, but there's some big downfalls to digital scopes. I really like them, but then again, there's some serious downsides to those as well. But just know, this is, again, I think I said $1,000, and for $200 you can get set up if you got a cell phone next to you and you're willing to part with it to do what you want to do. That's it, guys. I hope I covered everything. Comments, questions below, and I will see you next week.